understand what love is in Islam, then you must understand what you should love for yourself in Islam before you can even think about the next person. And the ayah, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. أنفسكم أولا. The first, you. Meaning, if we haven't properly learned to love being the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first, you are not going to be able to love your children properly. Not because you don't want to necessarily. It's not because you don't think it's important. It's not that you hate your kids. You want bad for your kids. It's not what we're talking about. Don't jump to the other extreme. We're talking about the way Allah wants, not the way we want. So now, if we're saying that, like, basically, if the general understanding that exists and persists in the Muslim community is the standard that exists with animals and non-Muslims, then no wonder we have problems. No wonder we have issues. And no wonder the youth feel the way that they do. So the thing that we want to talk about, the thing that we want to address this evening is, how do we love our kids according to Islam? What are their rights? First, we have to understand something. This is the first point. You did not decide when this child was going to be born, what they were going to look like, male, female, etc. Unless you're doing test tube babies. We don't do that. Allah Ta'ala is the one who made this decision to give us, to bless us with this individual that biologically is related to us. And it said that now this responsibility is yours, and your responsibility is to fulfill it. What? Their rights. What's the first right of a child? See? Not the 112th or the 64th or right? First one. What's the second? The third? Do you see what I'm saying? We need to know this, because think about it. If I don't know it, am I doing it? So the big thing our teachers that they put in front of us is look, observe. When the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, they understood something that generally is lost today. This child has never belonged to me. It is not up to me to determine the future of this child, to dictate the life of this child. I am not the Rabb of this child. I am the caretaker. The child belongs to Allah. My job is to present the purpose of life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to that child. I am not permitted to change or to enter into the mind or the heart of that child any other purpose other than the one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that child for. Why is that so intensely important these days? Because we have a very serious problem where these youth today, that basically, like, for the most part, they know how to do one thing. One, get an education. That's it. That's it. How to deal with the rest of life outside of employment and making money, they're for the most part clueless. I've got grown men that are now 30s and 40s and even in their 50s that I'm sitting down. We just this week, We had 3 faculty members. I had to tell them it was beautiful. It was a good experience, mashallah. But I had 3 faculty members from from our community, one from the college and 2 of them from the community, mashallah. And the Q&A was dominated by Muslims. We were there for interfaith for non-Muslims that were visiting. The Q&A was dominated by Muslims. I actually had to stop and say, but it was a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I had to actually stop and say, we're going to have to do a separate Q&A for Muslims at a different time. Right? The information that I'm presenting to them are the basics of Islam. Think about it. I'm talking to non-Muslims. I'm not getting into advanced theory or what do you call it? We're not getting into advanced theory, and we're not getting into the particulars of the deen. We're not getting into specifics, minutia. But Muslims had the most questions. So now they're educated, but they don't know their Islam. And then when we're presented with difficult situations, we don't know how to respond to our Islam because we don't know our Islam. And then we have a whole other problem where we think we know Islam, but we don't know what we don't know. And that's where people like the common statement that we hear in our communities. Everybody thinks they're a mufti. Everybody thinks they know what they're doing. We have unqualified individuals that will actually in the masjid, in their homes, in the streets, in stores, unqualified individuals will actually get upset, emotional, argue, and potentially get into physical altercations over legal minutia. That among professionals, we discuss it, bang, 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 and we move on. Why? Because of ignorance. So the responsibility that we have to our children is to do what? We are supposed to raise them the way Allah wants, not the way that we want. And if we don't understand the way that Allah wants, then we are required, we are obligated, then we are obligated because we are parents. Because that faridah includes everything that is necessary for you to live your life as a Muslim. And if you are a parent, then that means that this knowledge of how to raise a child is now an obligation upon you and I. If we have not taken the time to learn it, and we go and do it our own way, then we are accountable for the result. Period. Like it or not. That's why this is so key. This is why this is so crucial. Because we are dealing with a situation, I'm telling you, my dear, beautiful brothers, I'm worried about them. There's just certain basic aspects of character, like a toughness, right? Especially for the men. They should have been developed by the time at least somewhere before 25. But now 30s, 35, even 40, I'm dealing with 40-year-olds that act like 16-year-olds. I'm dealing with grown men that are more emotional than women. Do you see what I'm saying? And the number one thing for us is what? Protection. Protect their what? We protect their iman. We protect them physically. We protect them psychologically. That's our responsibility. And the number one way that we fulfill that responsibility is by individually and as a community providing a practical example that they can see and experience. It is not Sunday school. And I'll tell you right now, the kids, this is what I talk to them. But mind you, I've gone to different places and actually go through and do an assessment, right? Give a grade for the institution. The kids in a lot of places, different states, different backgrounds and everything. But there's a large portion of these kids are saying what? My teacher doesn't even know what he or she is talking about. They don't know what they're doing. You can tell that they literally just read this or just learned this before they came into the class. My teacher can't answer our questions. My teacher is just as confused as we are. My teacher is more of this is one of my favorites. My teacher is just a weekend warrior teacher. My teacher is not experienced, is not a qualified teacher. My teacher doesn't know how to teach. My teacher can't answer the questions that I get challenged with at school or with my peers. Then they get older, because usually, and you can check, by the time they hit middle school, it gets really difficult to get them to show up to Sunday school, doesn't it? By the time they hit high school, good luck with that. Why? What happened? What was so negative about that first experience in elementary school, in the beginning of middle school, that completely turned them off to Islamic education to the point they're like, if I ain't got to come, I'm not coming. That right there is an indication of a huge problem. Because then when they get older, what do they say? They didn't prepare me. I'm in college dealing with philosophy classes and this theory and this concept and that concept. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know which one's right anymore. They're doubting their own Islam. Because why? Because non-Muslims are presenting them what seems to be a valid argument to them. Because they don't know their deen. They don't know how to, the rad, or the refutation. They don't know how to answer it based on their deen, which means they don't know their aqeedah, which means they don't know what they believe. So how are they going to become mu'mineen? If you don't know what you believe, how can you become a true believer? If I have hufal that are coming to me, they've memorized the entire Quran and they don't know why. If a half of the Quran is coming to me and saying, I'm having doubts about my iman, think about that. What is it? What happened along that process that this young man memorized Quran, Kalam Allah, and has doubt about his iman? Yeah, if he has no idea what it means. If the only thing that he or she picked up was how to be a parrot, and that was the end of it, as if that was the end all be all. Memorize it, but you don't have to know what it means. Memorize it, but you don't have to put it into practice. Memorize it, but you're not going to see it from me. Is that love? Is that love? When we tell them, when we're living in this time, wahan, in the day, today in the khutbah, right? وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. وَلَا تَهِنُوا is coming from, you know the huruf al-asriya? Wahan, right? What is Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, because Sahaba in the hadith al-Ghutha, right? So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when the Sahaba asked, what is wahan? Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, Hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. Or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. The love of this dunya, the infatuation with this dunya, the craving of this dunya. And you don't want to go meet Allah. You don't want to die. You want to stay here, make more money, buy more things. I want to experience more things. I want to go here. I want to do this. I want to be able to do that. I have this goal. I got that objective. I have this fantasy. I want to go to vacation here. I want to have enough money to buy this thing, that thing, and the other thing. Wahan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَهِنُوا. Because we can't love our kids properly if we love this dunya. And I'll prove it to you. There's only one true love. Every love must be an extension of that one true love. The only true love that is possible to truly exist is the love between the Abd and the Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every other love is based on that love. So if you're that love that you have for anybody else, even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it must be through that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. On his signet, on his ring, what was the order? Allah, Rasul, Muhammad. So even the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you cannot love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam properly unless it is through Allah. The way Allah wants. We cannot love our children properly unless it is through Allah. The way Allah wants. Do we know what that is? We have to be careful. I'm not bringing this subject or this point up to be critical or ma'adallah, condescending. I'm bringing it up because I firmly believe these parents, when they say they love their children, that they want to love their children. They just don't know how. They don't realize that they're making a mistake. So it's not a matter of arrogance that this is an issue. I don't believe, I hope not. I think it's more of a matter of ignorance. Because we have been so heavily influenced by non-Muslims, and we look at their lifestyle with the eyes and the heart of this dunya, and we're impressed. We're impressed with them academically. You can tell. We run and we give all our money to them. We flock from all over the world to give our money to them and then get educated by them. We even send our kids to be educated by non-Muslims, even though they don't have a proper Islamic education, and we spend glamorously for it. Non-Muslims. And yet, like, I watch places like Dar al-Qasim, right? You're talking about a legit college, accredited. One step away from becoming full-fledged university, postgraduate work. This place, and that, like, it should be like, it should be treated as if it was like a crown jewel in our community. It should be flooded with resources because we're honored, right? This is how we do it. This is who we are. We come and we establish our thing to do it our way because we have our own way of doing things. Lakum dinukum waliya din. But now this is where love ends. This is where love is going to get us. I'm going to put a challenge in front of you. Because here in America, you want to really find out if somebody loves somebody? Make them give up the thing that they cherish the most. Their money. It's not even their time. It's not even professional expertise. I got people that, mashallah, lining up. We've got such a team put together, it'll blow your mind. Like, these brothers are impressive, okay? They are impressive. But I'm telling you right now, in the Muslim community, when it comes to like, put your money where your mouth is. Here's your challenge. I have been blessed to understand through the seerah how to put this whole thing together. Not just a school, whole thing, community, through seerah. The barakah of all of the investment of time and patience from these teachers. Right? Your challenge is this. I will commit. We have all of these amazing brothers. We have the expertise. We have the expertise. the networking, the connections, everything. We have the expertise. You commit to putting $5 million in front and saying, let's build a school, something we can all be proud of, something where we pay our teachers, something where teachers, literally, we have a waiting list because teachers from around the country want to come and teach here. Where there's a waiting list because parents want their kids, even from different states, because they want, like, that is quality. Because I was just, and to let you know, number one, I already have one taker. I already have, in a different city, there's already one community, and alhamdulillah, we're going to see. But they're already like, we're ready. Let's do it. And they even have POC. They've already like started the project, finished the project, brought me in. It's like, it's okay, now we're ready for the next step. We're serious. We'll put our money where our mouth is. We'll take the challenge. Now, here, mashallah, we don't want to step on any toes. So we have to do it like a different part where there's a need. Because our job is not to replace educational institutions, it's to keep them all alive and for all of them to strive for ihsan. We need multiple places. It's not about one big place. It's about places all over the Chicagoland area that are of such a substance and quality that all of us, that we're honored and proud, like this is how we do education. Because right now, our children are not learning their history. I had a 40-something grown man, grew up here, and I am teaching him now. I have this honor and privilege of teaching him now. And he's like, I know all of this stuff about this country. He's like, I can tell you so much about the history of this country, history of different parts of the world and everything. And you're telling me things about my own Islam, like part of who I am, my identity that I wasn't taught. Why? Why was I not taught our history? Why was I not taught our deen in detail? Why was I left inadequately provisioned to enter into a world that is completely submersed in kufr, shirk, and nifaq? Deen has everything. Like I see it now. Everything that I need is in this deen. I'm seeing it now. Why wasn't it given to me earlier? Why haven't I seen this or heard about this earlier? It's our fault if we allow this to continue. We have all these waiting lists and everything. It makes no sense whatsoever. Literally, like panicking. Parents are literally in tears. I don't know what to do about my children. I'm scared. I don't know where they're going to go. We got all these, again, because we don't have this concept of number one, what is quality leadership? And then number two, what's a quality follower in that leadership? And then will the Muslim community even follow qualified leadership? And for the most part, the answer is, it doesn't seem like it. Again, because everybody's a mufti. So now we have all these little efforts where people are basically just doing whatever they want, however they want it. And that's why we end up with Muslim schools as opposed to Islamic schools. That's why like our kids are carrying the title or the label of Muslim, but they don't know their Islam. And then we come with all the sheikh, help me with this, and like my kid won't do this, and my kid is doing this, and I don't know what they're doing when they leave. And we have I think he's here today. I had a young man in the office this week. He's like, I went to college. I was at a university. It was Muslims. I had Muslim roommates. He said it was so bad. It was so bad. He's like, I wanted to go somewhere else to just sleep on a couch, because I didn't want to be around the types of things that was going on there on a regular basis. And these are Muslims doing this. I'm not going to give you the details. We're sitting in the masjid, but it wasn't nice. And he left. And his story is just one of many. You don't hear about the alcoholism, the drug addictions, the abortions, and everything else, the beatings. You don't hear about this stuff because we don't like talking about it because it makes us feel uncomfortable. This is how it happens. It's a systemic problem that we have, not in the system of Islam, but in our understanding of that system. And this is not to be critical of anybody. This is for all of us collectively to understand it's our collective responsibility. Doing it wrong, all of us are at fault. Nobody is free. But here's the question. Where are the Muslims are going to put their money where their mouth is? I was in a city a couple of weeks ago, major city, and the local brother, he took me on a tour of the city, and he says, I want to show you where I work. I want you to see how Jesuits do it. You know what a Jesuit is? Crusaders, maybe? You heard of them guys? Okay. See history? See what happens when we don't know our history? Jesuits, Crusaders, gentlemen. Okay? It was a high school. If you want to see it afterwards, I got a video of it on my phone. Okay? So just catch me afterwards. I'll show it to you. Brother, he pulled up in the parking lot. I said, this is high school? He said, this is just a part of it. He says, you go over there, look, you see, that's the whole, like, what do they call it? Sports facility. And then this is this, and this is that. And I was like, Allahu Akbar. They didn't make a school. They made a statement. They made a statement about who we are. Do you know most of these places where Muslims are like killing themselves to try to get their kids in started out as what? Christian religious schools. You check out the Ivy League schools and their history. And now Muslims are bending over backwards, preparatory schools and everything else, because we want our kids to go to these Ivy League schools that Christians put together. Why? Because we don't have the courage, the wherewithal, and the understanding to put our own together since we're making all this money over here. So our children suffer, and we tell ourselves about how much we love them, even though we watch them go through all of these difficulties trying to survive in an environment that is getting worse and worse as we go along. My hope is that we will actually take the time to learn through our deen how to love our children, and that hopefully one day somebody will take the challenge and pull the money together and do it right. And I'm telling you, it won't be just me. That's the beauty of it. That's why I'm comfortable saying this. Because I know, like, there are so many quality brothers and families and ulama and even teachers that are just like, honestly, they're just waiting. Just waiting for the Muslim ummah, for the community to make the decision, like, this is what we want to do. They don't have the resources. I don't have the resources. Ulama don't get rich. You serious? It's time you're lucky if you get paid. When is the Muslim community going to put his money where his mouth is? That's what this is about. Until then, and so that you so give you an understanding. That school that I visited, 40,000 per child. If you work there, 20,000 per child. It's a Christian school. One of our brothers, mashallah, he was at a conference, and one of his co-workers, etc., there at a conference is a Jewish brother, and they're having a conversation, and he's like, so how are you guys handling like this whole situation, LGBTQ and all of this stuff, and like with your education system, like how are you guys handling it? He says, it's not an issue for us. He says, what do you mean? He says, because we have closed communities. We take care of ourselves. We have our own schools. He says, really? He's like, how much? He's like, I got 4 kids. I pay $20,000 a piece per year for each child, $80,000 annually. He says, I know who my teachers are. Why? Because they're the ones in the synagogue. They're the ones in the store, grocery store. They're my next door neighbors. They're in our community. I know who's teaching my children. I know about their character, etc. It's like, so I don't know. We can't say any of that. That's how invested they are in the claim of I love my child. We have, and I'll end with this. There is a sister in the Chicagoland area who is a teacher. She left teaching at a Muslim school because of abuse, the various types of abuse, which is not uncommon. And she went to go work in the public school. And she witnessed in this public school Muslimat, young Muslimat, engaging in intimate actions, let's call it that, right, with non-Muslims right there in the school hallway. She was so sickened by it, like she's just like, I can't do this. Like, I quit, I can't do this. You see what I'm saying? At some point in time, us as men, to be counted as real men, we have to stop complaining and pointing fingers and take personal responsibility. Come together, unified, collectively, and like, look, we got to get this done. How will you answer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this? We've got to get this done. How are we going to account for coming here to make money and then losing our own kids? My proposition is this. We have non-Muslims and they have their own orchard. Oranges. I like oranges. Mangoes if you prefer. And Muslims have come over here to pick the fruits from their orchard. Usually the lowest hanging ones. Now, there's no problem with that as long as this takes place. Muslims take those fruits, consume the fruit, use the seeds to plant their own orchard. Then they put the necessary time and effort, and for those of you who know, most of these fruit-bearing trees, 7 to 15 years before it bears fruit to eat. That's the reason why they have the saying, right? When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Now. Okay? So they plant those seeds and they put the necessary effort, time, and care to cultivate that orchard for the next generation. But it is a crime. And it should be a crime in our eyes and in our hearts if we are forever become dependent upon the fruit from their trees and then have the audacity to do what? Complain and criticize. When there was nothing stopping us. Think about it, we have legal freedom, we have political freedom, religious freedom. We have freedoms that you don't have in Muslim countries to basically establish the beauty of Islam, to make our mark. Think about this. Think about Chicago, in the Chicagoland area, when people Muslims come from us, I'm living in such, but I need to go visit Chicago. Why? Because that's where Muslims do their thing. That's where we do our thing. Education and ulama and academics, universities, businesses, everything across the board. Across the board. Where we make a statement, not with pamphlets, not with programs and events and interfaith. Let's just show them what Islam is. Let's show them the beauty of our deen, the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma taqabbal minna ajma'in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this intention from all of us. At this time, you have any questions, worries, problems, concerns? Don't be shy. Yes. Alaikum salam.
How come those technology that is readily available, that is cheap, instead of having a brick and mortar, send it out for anybody can join, free kids can join?
Because education in Islam is first and foremost about environment and atmosphere. There is no environment and atmosphere in the virtual world. That's the biggest thing, right? We need a place where our kids can actually go, because especially when they're young, children who are, call it like 9, 10 and younger, they actually respond more to experience than they do to kind of like a formal education, meaning like you're verbally teaching them. But if you can actually experientially teach them, that actually has more of an impact on them. And that's the way they learn initially. That's the thing about, that's how children learn language initially, experientially. All right, so we have to create an environment where they can experience Islam. And while they're in that environment, yes, we'll educate them as far as history and fiqh and grammar and all that kind of good stuff, right? Science and everything, math, all that kind of good stuff. But we have to generate the environment and an atmosphere. And that's about the adults. It's an excellent question, though. Anything else? Do you disagree with any of this? It's okay. This is Deen. So like, it's if you disagree, then like, mashallah, let's put it up. Let's see what Deen has to say. Yes.
So you mentioned that there's a brother and
He's not the only one.
he's not the one. But
Meaning among the hufad. I've had multiple hufad, hafidh al-Quran, that at different times they've come to me with this particular issue.
Islamic institutions where they learn this part of education, you think addressing it, do they take into account different people that
Proof is in the pudding. Let's just leave it at that. All right? Quality, man. Like we've got to get to the point where we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the muhsineen, right? So where's the ihsan in what we're doing? We have ihsan when it comes like get your education, become a doctor, get the best job available. We have ihsan when it comes to that. But where else are we focused on ihsan, and are we promoting ihsan? Because we're supposed to be in everything that we do. It's the hallmark of a Muslim, because ihsan is a mentality. That's the reason why you get a label, muhsineen, right? I mean, it wasn't a particular incident as much as you have a particular mentality. It's a sifa that you have, the sifa of seeking ihsan, istihsan. That's the thing that we have to key in on. We got to find that within ourselves. And like brothers, like let's get together and strive for excellence. Forget about this winging it, fly by night, good enough mentality. Like, what can we improve? How do we make this better? How do we make it excellent? How do we make this something that, you know, that if Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam were to show up and see this and experience this, that he would smile and be happy and like, yes, this is a proper representation of the message that I was sent with by our Rabb Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, just think about it. Like Muslims, I've talked to so many Muslims in so many masajid where they're like, the question, I love surveys. The question, do you feel like if non-Muslims were to come to your local masjid, that your masjid is a fair representation of Islam and Muslims, specifically Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You know, most of them say no. I'll tell you exactly what they'd say, like some of the common complaints. I'm embarrassed when I first walk into the masjid or bring somebody, a non-Muslim, to the masjid, the first thing they smell is like the bad socks and the shoes and the feet and everything. Then they go into the wudu area and there's like water all over the place. God forbid they should have to go to the bathroom and see the urine all over the seats and the floor and everything, even though we're supposed to be sitting down. And I'm embarrassed sometimes by the dust or the level of cleanliness or the lack of maintenance, all right, that takes place in our masajid. These are common complaints. Common complaints. See? And that's what? At-tahara, at-tuhur, nadafa, like it'd be clean. How many times have you personally gone into a masjid and made sajda and smelled old stinky socks in that place and you thought to yourself, that ain't good? That just disturbed my salat. All the smiles and the head nods give it away. Right? We had one, please do not say it if you know what this place. We have one masjid in this area, and alhamdulillah, it's not this one, that was infamous. You know what for? Maggots in the wudu area. And I'm not telling you a story. I saw this with multiple times with my own eyes. Maggots. I'm not talking about one or two. I'm talking about you look at the drain and they're like, their water's washing, they're like floating around, they're moving and wiggling and carrying on. Like, and this is what you want to see, and this is what you want to look at when you're supposed to be doing dhikr and mutatahhirin. Yes. So because the parents don't do it. That's it.
I give you an example. For me, I go any place in the first time I have to put the thing, then I can use.
Barakallahu feek.
The floor, anything can come.
Barakallahu feek.
I can take like paper towel or whatever.
I know beautiful.
Then I can leave.
I know Muslims that keep this, what do you call it? Like the spray cleaner, right? Paper towels and wet ones in their vehicles, so that if they have to use a public restroom, they take it like they got a little bag and they go in there. And I'm cleaning this up. It's not I'm not above cleaning up urine so that I can use the bathroom properly and maintain my tahara. It's education. It's adab. It's etiquette also, right? Tarbiyah. That's what all this is about, isn't it? Tarbiyah, tazkiyah. Which is what? One of the purposes for which Rasulullah ﷺ was sent. هو الذي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. There's they are right there. وإن كنتم من قبل في ضلال مبين. Subhanallah, it's right there. You want to know what Rasulullah ﷺ was sent? There it is. Teach you how to read the Quran, to purify you from shirk, kufr, nifaq, and to teach you, because what are you going to use for that purification process? To teach you the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kalam Allah, and how the hikmah, how to put it into practice, which we know is sunnah al-Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And then this is it, because I gave a promise, and I'm 30 seconds, and 8:45 we're going to be done. Sunnah.
But sometimes about the seerah one time in a year. It's very important to seerah Nabawi, whatever it was did. If we start, give them like example for our life, we're gonna be successful. Doesn't matter what. If the kids don't go different schools, it's gonna be a problem.
There you go. So the word, like to sum it up in one word, it needs to be consistent and relatable. Consistent and relatable. And what we're teaching them, we need to be able to take them to an environment where they're going to see it be put in practice. That's supposed to be our masajid, and it's supposed to be our homes. So say for instance, think about it. It's exactly what you're mentioning. So say for instance, mashallah, Sheikh Mahmoud is back here and he's teaching X, Y, and Z, and then the child goes home, and I've had this, right? And the child goes home and sees exactly the opposite. It's one of the reasons why I generally don't like teaching small children. Not because of the children, it's because of the parents. Because then the child will actually, and I've dealt with this multiple times, where the child will actually try to correct the parent, even though you tell them don't do that. You're going to see things at home that are not like you, but they do it. And then the parent gets upset because the child is right. And then they come to me. My child is telling me about this and that and the other, and then I should, but I want him to learn he shouldn't be this disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. And like at the end of the day, it's like your child called you out on your nifaq. And you're ticked off at me? I didn't do it. You told me you wanted me to teach your child the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's what I am doing. Now, as that child is learning the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he or she is now going home and seeing something contradictory to that. So they're bringing it up, which is actually in Islam what we teach people to do. Husnu su'ali nisful ilm, or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. Asking excellent questions is half of knowledge. So if that child is going home and seeing something contradictory to what they're being taught in the masjid, then it is only right for them to ask, what is going on? Granted, with all due etiquette, respect, adab, all of it. You must never be disrespectful to your parents. There's no excuse for that, ever. Forget about it. But they're right, and we're wrong. I'm saying, like, okay, fine. We're done with the complaining, man. Like, I'm just saying, like, what are we going to do to fix it? We can talk about this all day long. We can, like, bring up all kinds of points. We can do statistics. But at the end of the day, the question is what do you want to do about it? That's the challenge on the table. That's the challenge on the table. What do you want to do about it? How committed are you to actually proving in front of Allah this claim to be true? Meaning, you're ready to provide evidence for the claim that I love my children. Through what? Doing our part to ensure the safety of their iman in this dunya as well as in the akhirah. That while they pursue their rizq, which is written for them in this dunya, that they don't get lost or confused or misguided, led astray, that they stay safe throughout their educational process and throughout their work career and retirement and everything, firm and secure in their identity and in their iman as the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what we want. Other than that, right, as parents, we want them to be safe. We want them to be successful. We want to love them. I really do believe that Muslim parents really do want to love their kids. They just don't know how yet. So let's learn together. And then, more importantly, let's do it together. It's not enough to say, I love my kids. Prove it. Prove it in front of Allah. Prove it to yourself. Prove it to yourself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect the hearts and the minds and the lives of our children, the future generations that come after us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us of our deficiencies, our shortcomings, and our weaknesses, for our ignorance and to whatever degree our arrogance in front of Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to establish the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this land and every land on the face of this earth. May Allah ta'ala guide us and use us as a means of hidayat for the whole of the humanity. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite the hearts of the Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala al-khair and protect us from the evil intentions, machinations, plots, and schemes of the kuffar, the mushrikeen, and the munafiqeen. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma la taj'alna minhum. Oh Allah, do not make us from amongst them. Allahumma ja'alna اللهم اجعلنا من المتقين، اللهم اجعلنا من الصالحين، اللهم اجعلنا من المتوكلين، اللهم اجعلنا من المقربين يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الاحياء منهم والاموات. سبحان الله وبحمده، سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، ونشهد ان لا اله الا انت، ونستغفرك ونتوب اليك. سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you for taking the time on this Friday evening and sitting. Most of you with short notice, and you sat and you paid perfect attention the whole time. I have big, like, strong hope in the Muslim community. And I think now, like with the current circumstances, eyes are opening, hearts are waking up, and I know it's rough, right? But good things usually come out of like these bad situations, right? So it can be one of those situations for us. And the fact that you guys sat here for this hour, mashallah, and listened to me go on and on with the level of attention that you gave me, I had all eyes. It was beautiful. May Allah bless you guys. You are the hope, mashallah. May Allah bless you. May Allah ta'ala put barakah in your life and your health and your families and your rizq fi dunya wa fil akhirah. Ameen ya rabbil alameen.